but also I was born with just only having my baby teeth that actually came in. So my adult teeth never came in. So actually, by the time I was about 10 or so, I had them all removed. And a change of trying to hopefully that my adult teeth would grow in, because my adult teeth were in my gums, but they never came through. So I actually learned to play the trumpet without front teeth.
Hello, and welcome to episode 43 of the BandWagon podcast for the week of December 16th, 2024. On this edition of the program, news and notes from the band world, including another pair of international band stories, a lovely community band story, a tale of a friendly competition between band and conductor, and I have a conversation with someone who may himself be the very definition of powering through. I'm your host, Rob Hammerton. Hello, dear listener. Thank you for coming back or staying with me here through a little bit of an enforced break. Did you miss me? I did. When last we left you, our hero had just completed 41 consecutive weeks of podcasting when... Calamity. The modern technology that powered the podcast developed a flaw that threatened the future of the project. Okay, enough 1930s movie serial parody. As you might recall, though, my little MacBook did indeed develop a condition which had me thinking, cripe, I might have to find a whole new machine. That revealed unto me the truth of our 21st century existence, which is, man, are we dependent on our computers and such? Don't know what to do about that larger question exactly. But I've done quite a bit of work in the last couple of weeks or so on my small-scale local issue to try to figure out what was going on with the laptop and how I might fix it myself, or with the help of my church musician colleague and brother-in-law, who I swear could run circles around the folks at the Apple Store's so-called Genius Bar, and to try to figure out what exactly I was going to do if the thing couldn't be fixed, or more to the point, how I could spend as little hard-earned money as possible to rustle up another computer.
And to make a long story short, too late!
I have now instituted a rather tiny workaround that is quite honestly hardly noticeable to my day-in, day-out computing self, and we're back up and running using the computer I thought might have been a goner. All this did reveal a couple of other things unto me. One, I definitely missed putting these podcast episodes together. But two, I now understand why people who put podcasts together for 41 or 45 or 50 weeks in a row a year take a break, even if this one was enforced. If you step away from your computer for even a few days in a row, books get read, nature gets looked at, the engine gets a chance to cool down, sleep gets slept. So, no, I'm not going to offer up any New Year's resolutions for the BandWagon podcast, apart from keep at it and see where it can go. But I am going to say, I'm back in the saddle again. And look at that. After all that worry, a happy ending. And more of those to come in this week's episode, which I thank you for downloading and listening to, genuinely. So, empty your spit valves, and away we go. Let's play the first strain. In this episode's first strain, news and notes from the band world. Dateline Saipan in the Northern Mariana Islands. And for anyone who, like me, would have to look that up on a map to find out where it is, it's equidistant from Japan to the north, the Philippines to the west, and Papua New Guinea to the south. And it's north of and on about the same line of longitude as Melbourne, Australia. Credit for this story to the reporting of Raquel Floyd for the Saipan Tribune. The Saipan Pacific Winds Band held its annual Christmas concert on Saturday, December 7th in collaboration with the United States Air Force Band of the Pacific's Pacific Brass Quintet. The concert was held at the Marianas Beach Resort, which was formerly the Hyatt Regency Saipan. Along with holiday favorites, the repertoire for the gig included music from the Polar Express movie and from the Broadway musical Wicked. The Saipan Pacific Winds Band is comprised of 30 players, ages ranging from middle school to adult. It was officially incorporated in April 2001. Since then, the band has performed at public festivals and holiday concerts, as well as at Veterans Day and Memorial Day ceremonies. The group has also hosted the Saipan Wind Band Festival since 2017. Dateline, Kaiserslautern, Germany. And as long as we're doing international geography here, not to mention pronunciations, that is a town in southwestern Germany that is about 285 miles east of Paris, France, and a little more than 400 miles west-southwest of Berlin, Germany. It's much closer to the borders of Luxembourg and Belgium to the northwest. In spring of 2024, Boise State University student Eston Hall was studying abroad at Saarland University in Saarbrücken, Germany. Hall was majoring in Spanish secondary education and minoring in German. He was also a clarinetist in Boise State's Blue Thunder Marching Band. Hall's host family lived next to Kurt Weidman, the band director at the nearby Kaiserslautern High School. Kaiserslautern serves children of American service members in the region, and Weidman was hoping to expand the school's music offerings to include a marching band. Weidman learned about Hall's marching band experience through his host family and reached out to enlist Hall as a subject matter expert. This past fall, the two have worked together to develop the new marching band program at Kaiserslautern High School. Hall wrote drill and instructed students who had only played in concert halls until then in the basics of on-field movement. Barrett Norman of Kaiserslautern High School's World Languages Department said, quote, "Beyond displaying Eston's skills at marching band techniques, this unique moment shows how intercultural competencies arise when one least expects it. Eston's love of music helped him create a bridge of experience for high schoolers in Germany." On October 4th, the marching band deployed their first on-field formation, a letter K, in their homecoming football game against Lakenheath High School. And that's news and notes from the band world for this week. If you have a news item you think should be included in this segment, send me a link via email to heybandwagon@yahoo.com. After this quick water break, I've got a postscript to last week's community band conversation. Hope you'll stay with me. Okay, let's pick it up at the second strain. In this week's second strain, a tiny follow-up to the bulk of BandWagon's most recent episode, specifically my trio section conversation that focused in part on the Neshoba Valley Concert Band. As a refresher, that is the 45 or so piece community band based in north central Massachusetts, which, full disclosure, it has been my pleasure to conduct for the last 2 years. Our performance schedule for 2024, with the exception of a couple of non-sit-down outdoor holiday caroling gigs, wrapped up back on the 7th of December as we participated in tree lighting festivities in the north central Massachusetts town of Ayer. After a few of us played a few appropriate holiday melodies in support of the tree lighting ceremony in front of the town hall, we all headed upstairs to the town hall's auditorium. That auditorium is, shall we say, a very live acoustic space, and happily, the small audience that came upstairs with us was also nicely live. We played 13 or 14 items, including some absolute classics, Sleigh Ride, for heaven's sake, as well as some other items which were very new to that audience. Everyone seemed pleased with the evening's outcome, audience and band members. Shortly afterward, one of our members sent out an email via our band member-only email channel, and it was a message which did a number of things. First, it confirmed that our audience really did have a good time. Also, it reminded us that even if we don't hear directly from our audience after a gig, it may well be possible that our musical offerings do make a real difference to them. And it reminded us why we do this band thing in the first place, from a musical and a social-emotional perspective. I will now offer a lightly edited version of the email that our band members were sent. Last night, just after the concert, this band member wrote, I was approached by a woman who sat with her family in the front row across from the trombones and percussion, and she asked me to be sure to share her remarks with everyone in the band. She and her family had been outside at the tree lighting in front of Ayer Town Hall when someone told her there was a band inside. Not knowing what to expect, they came inside to check it out. She said that for the first time this year, this concert made her feel like it really was Christmas again. She said that she was so grateful that she and her family were able to experience it that it nearly brought her to tears. And, as I said, she made me promise to give her thanks to everyone in the band. Our writing band member continued, addressing her bandmates directly. We often never learn the impact our music has on others, but I truly believe music unites and heals us, both listener and performer. It is a privilege playing with you. Happy and blessed holidays to all. Couldn't have said it better myself, although predictably, I'm trying. If you're already in a community band, I certainly hope that your experience with that organization has yielded similar dividends. If you're not, you might wish to consider getting in. It's never too late, it's never the wrong time, and the benefits that await you inside that rehearsal hall have the chance to be much more than strictly musical. After observing a grand pause, may I invite you to listen to a wonderful conversation. Hope you'll stick around for it. Okay, let's change keys and get into the trio section. This week in the trio section, I'm pleased to be joined by an author, a conductor, a college lecturer, a builder of companies. There's just a whole lot of occupational titles, and as I think you will discover, approximately none of it was just handed to him on a plate. Please help me welcome to the program, Lieutenant Commander Wayne MAGEE. Wayne, great to meet you.
Me as well.
I was first introduced to you back in the spring, I think, when, relatively speaking, out of the clear blue, you sent me a note via the podcast email. See, everybody, hey, bandwagon@yahoo.com, get some usage. And I did a little curious Googling, and man alive, what a story your life has been and is.
Yes, it's been a journey.
I always start these conversations with a series of questions that are fairly rooted in people's resumes, and sometimes the answers really genuinely tell the story, and other times they only scratch the surface. I bet I know on which side of that line your answers are going to land. So here goes. First, what's your primary instrument?
Trumpet. I'm a trumpet player by trade, I say.
How'd you get into playing trumpet?
It's kind of interesting how that's not was my first choice. Actually, I wanted to be a drummer, but obviously, as you know, there's a lot of drummers, and the band director said you had to pick something else. So trumpet was it.
So what bands have you been active with in your life?
I guess outside of the school bands, obviously I started in 6th grade, so middle school and high school bands. I actually was really involved with bands outside of that. I mean, I was a couple community concert bands I was involved with. I did the Sandball Youth concert band, which was in Youngstown, Ohio. I did Warren Junior Military Band, which was another band in Ohio that did summer tours, so did summer marching and concert tours.
Huh.
So I did that for a number of years. And also when I got to college, I was doing the college band thing. I did the concert band. I did all the bands there, jazz band. I was leading Jazz Band 3. Wasn't that good to get the Jazz Band 1, but Jazz Band 3 lead.
Okay.
I did the orchestra as well. So kind of did all the bands in college. And my latest, I guess, band experience, I guess, would be I was working on a graduate program, a certificate in wind conducting, so at Messiah University. So I was in their summer wind ensemble there.
I don't know that I've heard of a lot of community bands that march. Yeah.
It was definitely a unique community youth band that was actually around for about 100 years. It didn't since has folded, but it was definitely a part of my upbringing and development as a musician. Yeah.
Now, the question that I asked last in this first little pod of questions is going to tell a story, but certainly not the whole story. But what's your current band-related role?
My current band, I'm the director of bands, honor guard, and drill team at Mass Maritime Academy. So it's kind of role in the sense that I do obviously the bands. We have 3 bands here. We have the concert band, jazz ensemble, and a field band that does like marching, pep band stuff as well, and parade band as well, and then jazz and concert band. And then obviously a part of that is the bigger group obviously is a color guard or honor guard, and then a drill team, exhibition drill team. That's all a part of that. And we do major performances with all those 3 units together. I mean, the field band, honor guard, and drill team all together. So
with invitations to perform internationally and
we've got haven't got to Europe yet, but we've got a lot of invitations to go to Europe to play. And so that's what's been really humbling for such a small organization to get invitations up and down the East Coast, but also internationally. Yeah.
So a little bit of the digging that I did in endeavoring to do homework for this suggested to me that you started life as a foster child, and I am really interested to know what brought you from there to being the author of a book about defying the odds.
Yeah, so I was in the foster system for about the first 14 years of my life. I was in the foster care system. The goal obviously was to be adopted, but it took a while to get to that place where I was actually legally free to be adopted. So my foster mother did adopt me after 14 years, but I was in her home for those times. So all intents and purposes, she was my mother. So that's where I spent the first 14 years of my life kind of in that. And also, but she loved music. She had a biological son that was actually a gifted musician as well. So just kind of being around music in the house, having a piano in the house and stuff like that, just kind of was kind of a natural progression, I guess. She was also loved singing, loved hymns, church hymns. So like I grew up with hearing that up around the house and stuff like that. So it's always kind of been a part of my life. So that's kind of how I got into music and stuff like that. Yeah.
I've heard that called a foster fail.
Yes, definitely. When you're adopted, definitely a foster fail. Yes.
Which is a little bit more of a story than just was encouraged by a band director to play trumpet and now here I am kind of thing.
Yeah.
The challenges that you faced as a child, whether foster or not, is something that literally only 1 in a million people have to deal with. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I was born with a disorder that actually, a genetic disorder that's actually 1 in a million people have. It's called CCD for short, or craniogradual dyssytosis or dysplasia. So actually, I don't have much of a clavicle, so I can actually fold my arms and make my shoulders touch each other.
Wow.
I can do that, so I can kind of collapse on myself. Huh. But also, I was born with just only having my baby teeth that actually came in. So my adult teeth never came in. So actually, by the time I was about 10 or so, I had them all removed. And a chance of trying to hopefully that my adult teeth would grow in, because my adult teeth were in my gums, but they never came through. So I actually learned to play the trumpet without front teeth.
I was going to say, of all the instruments we could pick, brass, hello.
Brass, yeah, so without front teeth. So actually, to this day, I actually still play without. I actually have dentures, but I actually take them out to play trumpet. So I've learned to play without it. And got all the way to college doing it and something like that. So it is my technique is actually limited in the sense, like when it comes to double and triple tonguing, it could be difficult. But outside of that, I could have the full range of the instrument. I can play. So that's how kind of my story is the fact that I learned to play without front teeth and be able to. And my specialty, I guess, was being able to play in the upper register pretty high. So that's kind of was my thing. I wanted to be like a lead player, and marching band, I was the guy screaming the high notes, and jazz, that was the same way, kind of just kind of living in that kind of solo trumpeter type / lead player. That's kind of what the goal was for me. Yeah.
My jaw just dropped and my mind just blew, because as a kid, I started on trumpet and I moved to saxophone when I figured out that the way I describe it is, I think my chops weren't built for trumpet, at the very least, because I had up to C second space from the top on the staff there, and I really didn't have anything up higher than that. And so my phrase is, my face wasn't built for it. I feel like I don't have an excuse now.
Yes.
Like maybe I need to reassess that a little.
Yeah. Funny, I kind of describe myself as like the lead player, but I actually would love the lower end of the instrument too. I kind of hanged out in the extremes of the instrument. Like I love the pedal tone area and stuff like that. So I mean, I kind of like to hang out in both of those areas of the instrument.
So what brought you to Mass Maritime?
Actually, that's kind of a long story, but the short end event. I mean, like I said, I tell people that when people ask me what I do or something like that, I say that I'm a trumpet player by trade, and that's kind of was my identity. I wanted to be a professional trumpet player. So my goal was not even to go to college. I wanted to go straight to the military service bands, and I wanted to spend 40 years in the service bands. That's all I wanted to do, was to be a professional musician. And I love, since I had a little dab of the military band experience being in the Warren Junior Military Band, which was really structured under like the service bands. I mean, we wore military style uniforms. We did all the ceremonial type stuff like they do and stuff like that. So we toured in the summer, and kind of that was kind of our thing. So seeing that and being exposed to that, that's when I knew that was an option to kind of be a military musician. That's what I wanted to do. So I didn't want to go to college, but my mother said, "You're going to college. You're going to college." She's like, "You're going to get a degree." So like that. So I said, "Okay, I'll do that." So I obviously got a music. was going to do that and just go into the service bands after. So my junior year of college, I said, okay, I'm going to start on my original goal was to be in the military musician. So I auditioned for the Army band. At those times, they were doing the auditions before they actually did the physical screening. So I auditioned for the band, made the cut. They were going to send me to Europe, and that's going to be part of the Army band in Europe, being a trumpeter player there. So then I did that, passed the audition. Next time to go to the physical. So I went to physical. I was in good shape. I can run. I mean, I do push-ups. That wasn't the issue. It was my medical history with the CCD and all that stuff like that. I came back and I like, oh, you have this. We can't take you with having this in your background. It's all your medical history, like all this stuff like that. So it was like, so my mind at junior year in college, my mind was like what? This is all I ever wanted to do. When I decided I wanted to be a musician, this is all I ever wanted to do. And then
a pre-existing condition.
The pre-condition you can't do it. And I actually, in my life, was so regimented. Like I'm an Eagle Scout. I was in Boy Scouts. I mean, my goal was to be in the military, and I did everything to kind of get myself ready for that lifestyle. So a very regimented guy. I was really involved in leadership development. So all these skills that I had is in addition to being a musician that I thought was ideal for being a military musician. I find out my junior year, well, that was all for naught. Like I can't, I'm not gonna, my school's not gonna happen. And actually, I got disqualified from doing the Army band. So I said, let me try and see if I can go to the Navy and see if I can just sneak in through the Navy or something like that. So I tried it with the Navy, and they said, no, we saw what the Army already let us know that you can't, so you can't sneak in this way. So
they talk to each other. God,
I didn't think the communication was there, but between the So after I found out there's no way around it, this is what it is. So like, what's next for me? I mean, at that point, I was like, I went to school. My degree was music trumpet performance, so I can't like get a teaching job. Was kind of I'm like, oh, I'm limited in that way. So like, so what can I do? So I just decided that I know I can teach in private schools. I know I can teach in college. So like, let me like look for opportunities there. I know like I said. My goal was not to teach. Like I didn't want to teach, and if I was going to teach, I knew it was something I was going to do after retirement. So it was something that I was like, and even coming from a family of teachers, it's like kind of like, oh, I got pulled into this. Even though I was trying to run from this family profession of teaching. So I was like, I knew I can teach in boarding schools without like having an education background, and I knew I could teach at college. So I looked for opportunities in that. And when I saw the application for Mass Maritime Academy, I'm like, this description was written for me. Like, I mean, even down to like the leadership development, like, yeah, I'm an Eagle Scout. I've done this stuff before. I mean, I've been involved with this. I've been, and also they just wanted someone that had that regimented background but also had a band experience, a music experience. So I'm like, I can do this. So I applied and I got the job. So I've been here almost 17 years doing it and building the program and getting it to where it is now, which I'm really proud of. The students that come through the program to be able to make it to where it is now. Like, it's not a week that it doesn't pass by. We get invitations to perform along the state, the region, the country, and even the world. So it's really, the small little band has definitely grown and as far as reputation, as far as being what we do and what we do best. Like we're not UMass Amherst, but I let students know that we're not UMass Amherst, but we are our own unique thing, and we're fulfilling that niche within the music world. So yeah.
And you may not have to be.
Yes.
In one of the overviews of your professional experience that I read, it said that at Mass Maritime you were the founding director of bands.
Yes, I'm the first one that had the full-time. This is the first time that when they put an application for the job, this is the first time they actually got someone full-time. They wanted to have a full-time person that actually on campus full-time that's in charge of the band. Like before, they've had people that do it as a part-time job or something like that. So they knew that in order to grow the program, they need someone that was dedicated to that as their primary responsibility was that. So I'm the first one to actually to have as a full-time director of bands.
So is it safe to say, therefore, that you didn't follow anybody?
I did not follow anybody that was in the full-time capacity. There was a couple of part-time people that I've actually, when I got the job, actually reached out to and just kind of understand like, why didn't it grow under you? What were some things that you had? And they pretty much said like, I wasn't I was only there a couple of times a week. I wasn't accessible to students. I can only take it so far if I wasn't there full time. So it's nice that the administration found out, like, oh, we want to grow this thing, we have to have someone that's dedicated to it full time. Yeah.
Would it be right to say that you dodged the bullet of having people say, Mr. Hoffman did it this way?
Yes, I did. I did. I dodged that bullet big time. Yeah. No one was really around much that even like the compare would be, I guess, be able to compare me to. Like, oh.
Elsewhere in your Mass Maritime listing, it says that you are involved with student affairs and residential life.
Yeah, so I do that too. So actually, the whole model for the director of bands program that's kind of unique here is the fact that obviously there's a band, there's an avant-garde, there's a drill team, but they all live together in the same dorm complex. So I'm in charge of that dorm complex that has everyone that's in band, avant-garde, and drill team are all in the same dorms, and that's kind of, I think that's been part of our success, is that the fact that everyone's living on the same floors, interacting with each other outside of the activity. I think that's one of the strengths of our organization, the fact that people are not just going to band practice together or going something after band practice, they're actually living in community with each other. And I think that helps with the creative process as far as like that. People bouncing off ideas in the middle of the night or just knocking on someone's door, like, oh, let's try this at band. Let's ask if we do this. Let's ask if we do that. So it's kind of, I think it's really been the strength of the organization. Yeah.
I guess in reading that at Mass Maritime you were both director of bands and assistant director of student services, my imagination had you in one place doing one thing at one time and then in a totally different office doing totally different things in another moment, and it's not so. And that's kind of neat.
Yeah. So I'm dealing with those students in all different aspects, not outside of the music band, on and drill team world. So dealing with them when it comes to discipline or anything like that. So when anything that's going on or even academic counseling, like what's going on in their classes, if they're failing, or if they need help. So definitely it's kind of nice to bring in the totality of their life versus just not what's going on in the band room. Yeah.
So all of this, your upbringing, your early challenges, your pivot from what I want to do with my life to what do I do with my life, your work as more than just a musician at the academy, certainly not as it was all happening, but now it could seem pretty clear that all of that led quite logically to putting together a book that both deals with and is affected by that life experience. It's a book that is quite appropriately titled Tough Blows. And TOUGH is an acronym, I note, and I am desperate to know what it's an acronym for.
Tough Blows, obviously trying to play on the trumpet playing thing. So obviously, I kind of just, people ask, like, why did I write the book? I guess I got to start there. I didn't want to write the book. That was something I did not want to do. It was what happened is a lot of people in my life passed away. Like my adopted mother passed away. My brother passed away. So everyone really, really quickly. And they were the ones that actually were like the champion of my story. They obviously knew me before I knew myself. I mean, so they knew everything about everything, my story, my journey. And they kind of kept that alive, used that to inspire others and like that. So I didn't really have to do anything. I just got to live my life, and they saw someone that was struggling, they would use my story to kind of help someone. And when they essentially have gone and passed away, like there's no one else to tell my story. So I think I should I should tell it and get it out there. So I saw how it encouraged others through my family sharing my story with other people. So I'm like, there's no one else to tell the story, so I have to write it down. So that's what the reason for writing it. It's something I did not want to do, but it was definitely, I guess it was therapeutic in a sense of really getting it down there, like actually just showing, I guess, homage to them and everything that they did to support me through my story as well. So that's why I wrote the book. And I kind of just, what was the theme? Kind of, so this acronym kind of is what was weaved through my life as far as what guided me on my journey as far as getting through everything. And obviously, tough being, tenacity obviously was the T, that unwillingness to give up, the relentlessness. And that's kind of was the part of my story. Like people said, you can't do this, you can't play trumpet, you can't do it well, you can't get in so all these things that I was told I can't do. And that's, for me, was fuel for me. Like, you tell me I can't do something, I'm gonna do everything I can to prove you wrong. Yeah. And so that's the tenacity piece. And also this also having others, like seeking opportunities. So for me, it was like seeking opportunities. Like I told you, I was involved in a lot of bands outside of my school bands, and I was seeking those opportunities to get better at the craft of playing and performing. So that's one. Also seeking unity is a you as part of that story. Like, so trying to find people that would that are for you, not against you, or championing you. So seeking unity with others that are kind of going that same direction. So being around those people that are trying to go to be that professional musician and trying and sort of seeking unity. Groups also is one thing, like being a part of groups that are pushing you and growing you. So that's a G portion of that acronym. So for me, that having groups around me that are kind of hold me accountable was definitely an important part of my story. The reason where I am today is because of having people around me that were
Surround yourself with good people,
supporters and encouragers and stuff like that, and people just telling me straight like what I need to do in order to be successful. And obviously, the last one, which was the hardest one for me, was asking for help. So that H is help, like
okay,
seeking help. Yeah, that was the hard thing to do. Like instead of trying to be that white knuckle, trying to bite down and trying to do it, but not knowing what to do, you need to ask for help. So that was something that actually, I think that was like the last kind of breakthrough for me as far as like being successful and whatever I did. I need to make sure if I don't know it, owning up to it and asking those people that may have answers, asking for help. So that's kind of the acronym broken down.
Talk about a series of attributes or characteristics that, it sounds cheesy, but this is a band podcast, characteristics that a person can offer to, but be offered by as well, the band activity. Is it safe to say that band or music was a player in getting you from where you began to where you're at now?
Definitely 100% true. Like I did, the relationships that I have, everything that I have, I think it all came from the band room. I think it also just, I mean, I think that was the place where I was developed and learned a lot about people. I would make a joke that there's not a single culture in the world that I think I haven't interacted with because of my experience with music and bands. Like I've slept in the same room with people from all over the world because of my experiences with band. I mean, there's not a single culture that I can be in front of that I don't feel a certain level of comfort with because I've actually toured with someone that has a similar culture or similar experience. So I mean, I guess I owe all my sense of adaptability in life and profession because of band. What band has taught me. Yeah.
I did mention, and it is true, you are the builder of a company.
Yes.
A publishing and leadership development company. It's I'm reading it here. It's called WDM 413. WDM, I can figure out what that stands for.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And the 413 part is it's a biblical reference. Obviously, the Philippians 413. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So kind of like yeah. So that's kind of like what I could do is because of my relationship with Christ and everything like that, and just that's kind of what I kind of put those two things. Obviously, my initials and 413. Yeah.
Your Master of Science degree from Northeastern University, it reads, Leadership and Management, and you include mention of studies in business ethics, coaching, management, and leadership development, with elective studies in crisis communication and organizational communications. That's being a band director, is it not?
It is. It is. And it's funny because my goal was actually kind of stay here, and I'm like, what can I do what type of further education I can do that actually would help what I'm doing here the most. Obviously, there's no music majors at the school, so what can I do? I think for me it was like learn more about leadership, and I can be able to incorporate that into the band role, to be able to make sure that they, through their experience with band here, that they can become the best leaders because of that. So that's why I pursued that degree. It was a really tough decision. Like I mean, the easiest thing for me was obviously go get a master's in music, and I actually since I've gone back and got a graduate certificate in music. But I mean, I just felt like in my undergrad experience, I actually was able to take graduate courses in music as part of my undergrad credit. So I was able to. So I've kind of gone there with the advanced theory and something like that. So I was like, I think I want to get something to kind of help the organization that I'm actually serving right now. So that's why I got that degree in leadership. And as you said, I think to me, it was very applicable to the band world. Like it was just like I was able to use everything I was learning in there to make the band even better. Yeah. And the people that was in it even better. So, yeah.
And I'm getting a grin out of the idea that Northeastern is probably thinking, yeah, you get this degree to go into business and deal with running your company. And inside your head, you're thinking, oh no, this is for band.
Yeah, yes. Trying to build a better band. That's all. Yeah.
Well done, sir. Well done.
Yeah.
There is a quote, and I think it came from your website, which we should talk about before we get done with this. Very important. And it says, gratitude is not a platitude, but an attitude that will ultimately get you where you need to be. In addition to the fact that that's a real cool phrase, and I have thrown it in my back pocket for use wherever possible, it does go toward the gratitude that I have that you reached out to begin with, and then that you agreed to come on and have this conversation. Now, traditionally, I have saved a pack of questions for the end of these talks, which address burning issues that don't always arise otherwise. And I'm always curious about the answers to those questions. And again, sometimes they line right up with the major topics we discuss, and other times they kind of put them in an interesting new light. So before we wrap up here are those less strictly resume-oriented band questions. The first one always is, what's one of your favorite pieces of band music that you've played, outdoors or indoors?
I'm actually a big British band, like English. I mean, so anything like talking Holtz, any of those pieces. I mean, they never get old to me. I've played them in essentially every band that I've ever been in, like at every level. I've played with them, even recently as this summer with the Messiah University Summer Wind Ensemble, like the hosts, all those British band composers. Yeah, I love all those pieces. Yes, I'd say as a group, those would be my favorite to play. But to play and also to conduct, yeah.
Is there a piece of band music that you have never played but you would like to?
Yes, this is a piece that I kind of heard when I was an undergrad, actually performed by the trumpeter who was a graduate of the program I went to, was Sean Jones. He played the Sometimes I Feel Like a Motherless Child, Eastman Wind Ensemble did. So he played that with the top band at the university that I went to. Ever since then, I fell in love with that piece. Like I would love to play that piece, conduct that piece, whatever. It's just like it was just such a beautiful piece. So I would say that one. Yeah.
Throwing that out to the universe just in case things line up.
Yes. So definitely that piece. Yeah.
Is there a band that you would love to perform with that you haven't, either because you're not the right age, or you're not in the right place in the world, or don't live in the right time period?
That's actually twofold for me. I would say any of the service bands I'd love to play with. But outside of that, I would say Madison Scouts, 96, 95. I'm a big old DCI fan. So any Madison Scouts during that time. Recently, actually, if I could do it, I would probably say Boston Crusaders. I love what they've been doing for the last couple of years. So, I mean, I would definitely jump on that bandwagon with them. I would say those would be the groups, yeah.
And if you haven't already, I wonder if you have a favorite band story you like to tell.
There's actually one very embarrassing one in the book. I'm not sure about it.
No requirement.
I guess I'll go to one of the more public ones that are actually I think would be more apt for all audiences. But I would say my favorite band story is actually the one how I really got a formed relationship with my high school band director. As a freshman going in the marching band, obviously at that time we went away to band camp. And part of the requirements as a freshman, you had to be a part of a skit. So I, obviously being a shy freshman, didn't really know anybody. I married up with another freshman that kind of was in the same, but we didn't sign up for a skit. We didn't have anything skit. So I was like, I know this old Boy Scout skit we can do. So we did this old Boy Scout skit where it was called The Great Swami. The Great Swami being like a fortune teller or something like that. So I had the other gentleman act like the interpreter for me, which I'm pretending to be the Great Swami. So obviously we called 3 people up, and the part of the requirements, in order for the Great Swami to be able to tell your fortune, you had to smell your shoe. So we had 2 people come up, and I would just smell their shoe, and I would make up something funny, like they're going to be like this or that. So for the very last one, we called the band director up, and was like, so I grabbed his shoe and I smelled it, and I said that or you'll go far in life. And then he gave the shoe back to me, and I threw his shoe, the band director's shoe, all across the room. So he obviously got to go travel to go get his shoe. So he got to go far in life. So that was a big hit. And from that very day, we kind of formed this relationship and everything like that. So he's always kind of been like a mentor to me. And so that all through my career, obviously emailing him and being in touch. I actually went back last year, guest conducted the high school band that he's still at, or that I graduated from. So I think that kind of cemented our relationship like that. So it was a clever way to kind of meet and kind of form that relationship with the band director. And actually that's that's one of my favorite stories. Yeah.
Well, again, sir, it was good to meet you, and I really appreciate your willingness to join me today. And since we scheduled a time back in December to talk, and then my tech woes began, I also want to publicly appreciate your flexibility and your patience.
Yes, you definitely understand that. It happens to us all, yeah.
If people want to keep track of you and the things that you're doing in an online space, where can they do that?
I mean, I have my website from the book, toughlows.com. You can go on there, and it has links to my Instagram. Instagram and LinkedIn is where I'm most active at as far as like posting things. So on LinkedIn, I like to really post inspirational things and just get people motivated about life and leadership. So so that's kind of what I use social media for, and just trying to get people like encouraged. Yeah.
Among so many other things, director of the Massachusetts Maritime Academy's Pride of the Regiment, Wayne MAGEE. Thanks for taking time for the podcast, and may you experience continued success.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take a break, and then on the other side of that, I have a story for you of a different way of approaching the conducting of a military service band. This is BandWagon. Here comes the dogfight. I thought that this week's dogfight might contain stories of the Midwest Band and Orchestra Clinic. Sure enough, I've got one. Mine. It was December of 1997. I was midway through my third full-time year as a graduate student in the Boston University Music Education Department, which is a tale for another time, but let's just say I had arrived at BU in fall of 1995, clutching an undergraduate journalism degree, and the fine folks at BU figured out a way to get me from there to a master's in instrumental music education, and for that I will always be grateful. You could call him my boss, since he was the BU band director and director of Boston University Musical Organizations, which was the umbrella under which all the non-major ensembles lived. But as you will understand if you've heard my interview with him in BandWagon's 12th episode, Joe Wright had become a trusted friend as well as a colleague. Sometime before Thanksgiving that year, he had looked at me and said, "Want to go to Midwest?" "Well, of course," I said. "Means and motive, let's do this." So we flew to Chicago. We gathered information and inspiration from lots of Midwest clinic sessions. We perused the vast hall full of exhibitors and vendors. We collected lots of free swag and only later wondered how we were going to get it all back home in only our existing luggage. And we attended concerts. Lots of concerts. Lots of terrific concerts. Well, only the really good ensembles play at Midwest, after all. Even the middle school bands were spectacular. One of them, from Texas, Natch, just nailed Flight of the Bumblebee. And the headliner ensemble that year was the United States Coast Guard Band from New London, Connecticut. The great Lewis Buckley led the Coast Guard Band through repertoire which included fluffy little things like the Billboard March, Morton Gould's Santa Fe Saga, a suite from Leonard Bernstein's Candide, an arrangement of Mendelssohn's Scherzo from A Midsummer Night's Dream, Buckley's own Fantasy for Two Clarinets, and 2 or 3 works by Russian composers. And there was a guest conductor with the band, a gentleman named Nikolai Ushapovsky. Among other accolades, Colonel Ushapovsky had been the conductor of the Leningrad Military Orchestra, he'd been the head of the military band service of the Leningrad Military District, and he'd been the director of the International Festival of Military Orchestras held in St. Petersburg, Russia. And he made it quite clear that he was associated with the Russian military by wearing a uniform with, among other decorations, easily the largest epaulets ever made. Now, I have access to the concert program from that night, and it does not list the piece of music that constitutes the bulk of this favorite Midwest clinic memory of mine. My recollection is that there was an encore. It was a march. I don't recall whether it was especially Russian or just a Henry Fillmore grade composition, but what I do remember is that it became something of a competition. After the final scheduled piece had concluded, Buckley gestured for Ushapovsky to join him center stage and take appropriate bows. There was wild applause, in part because this was only a few years after the collapse of the Soviet Union, and we all thought the Russian Federation was going to be all right. And anyway, absolutely everyone on that stage at that moment had lots of military uniform decorations on them, so... And then it became clear that there would be an encore. We in the audience finished our standing ovation, sat back down, and strapped in. Whichever march it was, the Coast Guard Band played the heck out of it under the twitching baton of Ushapovsky. They all got to the end, and the stinger evoked another round of enthusiastic applause. Ushapovsky turned, bowed solemnly, and then turned back to the band and raised his arms again. And the march resumed, starting at the first dogfight section and plunging through the final trio, a hair faster than it had already gone the first time. Stinger at the end, applause and bows. and Ushapovsky turned back to the band, sank into a very slight crouch, and raised his conducting baton yet again, and beckoned the Coast Guard band to begin at that dogfight yet again, this time at a considerably quicker tempo even than the most recent encore of the encore. The Coast Guard's band's body language became an interesting combination of, "Ha ha ha, what a fun time this will be," and, "Okay, fella, you want to crank up the tempo? We will not only keep up with you, we will make you work." And they kind of did. I honestly don't know that this was an actual improvised competition. Ushapovsky had been a featured arranger on one of the Coast Guard band's recent recordings, so there had to have been at least something of a friendly relationship between them and this Russian arm waver, surely, right? But when Ushapovsky called for yet a third encore with yet a further increased tempo, I know for whom I was rooting. Semper Paratus, always ready. The Coast Guard band seemed like it was more than ready for that Russian conductor. We could call it a draw for the sake of international diplomacy, but I would swear that many Coast Guard band members had facial expressions afterward that included slight glints in their eyes, and those glints signified about 40% woohoo and 60% don't mess with us. Maybe I was imagining all that, but I doubt it. Okay, one last break to catch our breath, and then we'll wrap things up for this week. Thank you for continuing to listen. To wrap up this week, let's take the CODA. For the CODA this week, a segment that was topical back in December when the holidays were still ahead of us, but maybe it's topical even now. I mean, birthdays happen all year round.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
The holidays are right around the corner. Are you panicking? Are you desperately seeking a great gift idea for your friends, family, coworkers, bandmates, perfect strangers? We've got your holiday gift shopping solution. BandWagon Merch. Featuring the podcast logo, as well as designs including catchphrases such as, "Hey band," "Dear listener," "Here comes the dogfight," and a parody of the Seinfeld Jerry and Elaine and George and Kramer design. Products include t-shirts, short and long sleeve, tank tops, hoodies, crewneck sweatshirts, baseball t-shirts, the ones with the different color sleeves, mugs, pillows, tote bags, pins, phone cases, stickers, magnets, wall art, and yes, hats. Go to tpublic.com and search for BandWagon. Shipping options are available for delivery before the holidays are over. That's tpublic.com for BandWagon Merch. God, I feel dirty. That's BandWagon for this week. Thanks, as always, for downloading and listening. BandWagon was written, researched, and produced by your humble host. Musical interludes were produced by Hammerton Media, from source material largely by Sean Philip Sousa. You can listen to more episodes at the pod's website, heyband.podbean.com. Please give me feedback. Let me know what you like or what you think might change. You can do that using the email address heybandwagon@yahoo.com, or leave a 90-second voice message by going to speakpipe.com/heybandwagon. Be aware that I do reserve the right to include your message on the podcast unless you say otherwise. Those contact links and links to this week's news items, conversation topics, and my interview guest, Wayne MAGEE, can be found in our show notes, as can a link to BandWagon's merch store, thanks to the good folks at TeePublic. Marketing. Please share the show on social media, and thank you for that. If you enjoy this podcast, please do share it in the direction of someone whom you think might not be a listener yet. Word of mouth really is the best recruiting tool. And to keep up with the pod every week, subscribe to BandWagon on the Podbean app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are sold. For now, take care, stay in touch, stay in tune, and we'll do this all again next week. I'm Rob Hammerton, back in the saddle again.